My family hijacked my vacation plans for my golden sister and her kids, but this time I had my own secret escape plan. Reddit, I need some perspective on this. I need advice with my family predicament, which has been accumulating for decades, but it's a long one. Despite growing up in a seemingly typical suburban Massachusetts family, I, 35 degrees Fahrenheit, have always struggled with this particular dynamic. The golden child has always been my older sister Kate, for to F our home has been a monument to Kate's life since I can remember, with every wall adorned with her accomplishments and every discussion focused on her life. My parents were too busy getting ready for Kate's college interviews to buy a cake for my 10th birthday, which I can still clearly recall. They even attempted to pass off Kate's leftover graduation cake, which still had her name on it, as my birthday cake. As I grew up, Kate's accomplishments eclipsed every significant event in my life. Kate had recently been selected to the debate team, so my parents were hardly aware that I had made the honor roll in middle school. Kate had to tour a college campus, so they were unable to attend the ceremony when I won a local painting competition in high school, knowing that expressing my accomplishments would only elicit a brief, "That's nice, dear," before the topic of Kate was brought up again. I learned to celebrate them in private, in my room. Even our possessions revealed the priorities of our family. The newest technology, stylish clothing, and everything Kate needed for her many extracurricular activities were always in her room. In contrast, my room was filled with hand-me-downs. When I expressed interest in taking music lessons, I had to make do with Kate's abandoned violin, her old clothes, and her old school supplies. I had trouble playing the violin since it was too large for me. We already spent so much on Kate's piano lessons this year. My mother responded in response to my request for a suitably sized one. All the way through high school, the trend persisted. I was forced to use borrowed library books to study, while Kate received private instruction for her SATs. My parents took out a loan for her to buy a car for college. They advised me to take the bus when I needed assistance getting about. Kate's needs and desires were at the center of every financial choice, family discussion, and holiday preparation. It was really difficult in college, with the full backing of our parents. Kate had earned her degree from a renowned university. They could only agree to pay half of the tuition at a public school when it was my turn, they clarified. We're still paying off Kate's student loans. You'll need to figure out the rest on your own. In order to make ends meet, I worked at part-time jobs while I was a student, frequently dozing off over my textbooks. Kate, in the meantime, was beginning her career at a position our parents had helped her land through their contacts 7 years ago. Kate got married, and everything changed, or rather grew worse. For a whole year, our family's whole attention was on the wedding for her ideal wedding, which included a designer gown, an opulent location, and a guest list of more than 300. My parents took out another loan, despite their concerns about the payments. I recall hearing them in the kitchen one evening, and their insistence that nothing was too good for Kate's special day. Was there ever any question that she was her maid of honor? I was supposed to coordinate bridal showers, plan a lavish bachelorette party, and manage any minor emergencies that arose. My mother told me, "Don't be selfish, Elizabeth. This is your sister's special time." When I expressed how stressed I was with juggling these obligations while working a full-time job, the twins followed. Our parents were ecstatic when Kate revealed she was expecting twins, even though they were still repaying the wedding loan. They contributed to the down payment on a home close to them. I witnessed them spend their retirement money, which they claimed they couldn't access when I needed assistance with college, on the day they signed those documents. However, they claimed that this was different. "This is for our grandchildren," they said. Who was the default babysitter, you ask? Yes, I do. It started out as sporadic babysitting. The request, "Elizabeth, could you watch the boys for a few hours?" became a weekly ritual, which was later extended into evenings whenever they had appointments. My parents were in favor of this arrangement, stating, This is what family does. Kate and her husband, Jack, for 3M, assumed that I would always be there to assist them. Whenever I attempted to object, even while I adore them, the twins, who are now active 7-year-olds, are draining. The routine is the same every weekend. Kate unexpectedly drops them off at my place, usually with the pretext that she needs me time or has essential errands to run. The lads run amok, transforming my tiny apartment into a catastrophe. Kate starts crying about how overwhelmed she is when I try to set limits or ask for advance warning. You can't take that job. Elizabeth, who will help me with the boys. When I brought up this topic during a family dinner in the hopes of receiving some congratulations, it seems as though my time, profession, and life are completely irrelevant. My father adds, "Family should come first." Elizabeth, my mother always responds, "Your sister has 2 children to look after. You don't know what tired really means." When I tried to explain how overwhelming it all is, Kate accused me of being envious of her life and her kids. She replied, "You're just bitter because you're still single," as though my marital status were the only factor that determines my value as a person. After a particularly demanding weekend with the twins, I made the decision to finally treat myself to a beach vacation last month. They had successfully damaged my laptop and left permanent markings on my couch. I knew I needed a vacation. I discovered a small, unpretentious resort in Florida that was ideal for a tranquil retreat. My mother's eyes glowed when I brought it up during our weekly family supper. "Oh, that's perfect. We should all go together. The twins would love the beach." Before I could protest, Kate had already begun organizing events. She stated, "You can take the boys swimming, while Jack and I have some alone time," as though my trip would naturally turn into a time for them to be looked after in exchange for my assistance with the twins. Of course, my parents even offered to upgrade my reservation to a superior resort where they would all stay, totally disregarding the fact that this was meant to be my vacation. They began organizing activities and outings centered around what the twins would like. I made a choice that would alter everything. While I was lying in bed that night, I reserved a separate resort on a quiet little island. I kept the change in plans a secret from everyone. Silently, I began preparing by scheduling time off work, packing my things covertly, and ensuring that my emergency fund was available. Even though I know it's dishonest, I simply couldn't stand it any longer. At the airport, they will be separated from us while I board my flight to another location. They will be traveling to Florida. I've disabled location sharing, and I'm ready for the inevitable criticism. Yes, I am aware that there will be drama. Yes, I am aware that they will be upset. But I want to prioritize myself for the first time in my life. I've been the dependable sister, the ideal daughter, and the always available aunt for 35 years to meet my family's expectations. I've given up my social life, my weekends, and my own needs. I was constantly babysitting, so I missed out on dating prospects. I have declined advancements that might conflict with the needs of my family to be there for them whenever they need me. I've put my personal life on hold. Right now, I'm fleeing a lifetime of being taken advantage of, not just a holiday. I intend to utilize this as a turning point to set clear limits with my family and perhaps even take a complete vacation from them. I'm sick of always making sacrifices, being the family's pillar of support, and being the dependable fallback option. Reddit. What should I do? Am I exaggerating? Is it appropriate for me to want something else for myself? Or should I merely follow their plans and accept my place in the family? First update. I appreciate all of your help and guidance since my last post. A lot has transpired, and I want to explain how it all turned out. Although everything went according to plan, the day at the airport was more emotionally fraught than I had anticipated. I purposefully chose a different check-in station that was far from where my family would be. When I arrived early, I watched everyone come through the glass walls of the terminal, Jack checking their booking details, my parents looking excited, Kate handling the twins, and Kate hauling baggage. I silently went through security for my own flight. As soon as they started to head to their check-in counter, as soon as they realized I wasn't at their gate, my phone began to buzz. The bewildered text first appeared. "Where are you?" "Baby 12 is where we are." Then the anxious ones. "How are you?" "Elizabeth, has something taken place?" And lastly, the irate ones. "How could you treat us like this?" The guys are in tears. Before I boarded my aircraft, I switched off my phone. I experienced a peculiar fusion of liberation and remorse. For the first time in years, I had lived with that guilt for the majority of my life. However, freedom, it was exhilarating, and it was new. The crowded tourist destination they were going to was nothing like the little island where my resort was located. Years of strain vanished the instant I set foot on the beach. No twins to babysit, no family problems to handle, no schedule to adhere to the ocean, me, and complete freedom. In fact, the first 2 days were challenging. The twins would be eating lunch now, or Kate would typically require assistance going to bed at this hour. So I kept checking the time. It's difficult to break decades of indoctrination. However, something changed on the 3rd day. I experimented with things I had always wanted to do, but had never had time for. I loved every minute of my silly yet fun surfing lesson. I became friends with a bunch of lone travelers when I enrolled in a yoga class by the beach. I even had a spontaneous dinner date with a fascinating man I met at the resort's coffee shop one evening. Even though it was only a casual supper, it served as a reminder that I could live life apart from my family. When I eventually turned my phone back on after 5 days, that was the true test. There were dozens of voicemails, more than 300 text messages, and 147 missed calls. Even my mother had called my place of employment to report a family emergency. Fortunately, I had previously told my supervisor that I would be taking a holiday. Some of the voicemails were played for me. My mother's tone changed from one of concern to one of rage, to one of manipulation. "Elizabeth, how could you leave your family in such a way? The twins are inconsolable. Did we raise you this way?" Even worse were Kate's messages. "You've ruined everything." "The lads are persistent in their request for Aunt Lizzie. I can't handle meetings by myself, so Jack had to shorten them." However, one message struck a different chord. My father sent it, and he seemed unsure for once. "Elizabeth, please let us know you're safe." Even though I don't understand what's happening, I had never heard him talk to me without instantly defending Kate or pressuring me to do more. Before I texted our family group chat just once, I wrote, "I'm having a great vacation and I'm safe. When I get back, I'll get in touch with you. Please give me space." I then turned off the conversation and resumed talking to myself. The following 5 days were life-changing. In addition to reading bedtime stories to the twins, I also read 3 novels. I spoke with other guests without interruption. Every evening, instead of rushing home to assist with baths and sleep, I watched the sunset in order to digest years' worth of suppressed emotions. I even began journaling. I ate dinner at a little beachside eatery last night. When the elderly waitress saw that I was alone, she inquired as to whether I was content with my seclusion. She said something that stuck with me after I gave her a brief explanation of my circumstances. "Family is vital, honey, but not at the expense of your own well-being. Putting yourself first is sometimes the boldest thing you can do." I didn't head straight to my flat when I got home in order to give myself time to get ready for the inevitable confrontation. I had reserved a hotel room for tonight's. During this period, I updated my work emergency contacts, changed the locks on my doors, and above all, put my boundaries in writing. I accidentally liked a co-worker's post on social media, which is how my family found out I was back. My mother and Kate arrived at my apartment building in a matter of hours. Constantly buzzing my intercom, across the street, I watched them from the window of my hotel room, feeling oddly cut off from their spectacular performance. I'm going to confront them tomorrow at a neutral coffee shop. Not my race. I know it won't be simple, but I've prepared what I want to say when I consider it. My hands tremble, but I'm choosing myself for the first time in my life, and I know I'm doing the right thing, in spite of the worrying, the guilt, and the drama that will undoubtedly ensue. I'll provide another update following my talk with my family. I'm grateful because Reddit gave me the confidence to take this first step toward independence. Second update. As scheduled, my family and I gathered at the coffee shop, and it was even more heated than I had anticipated. This is what took place. The encounter at the coffee shop began politely enough. I got there early and sat at a corner table where I could see the front door and the emergency exit, a habit I'd formed from years of expecting family drama. I could hardly grasp my coffee cup because my hands were shaking so much. My parents, Kate, and surprisingly Jack all showed up together. I am glad there are no twins. I raised my hand and said what I had practiced before they began their planned speeches. I'm establishing boundaries, and they can't be negotiated. The 2 hours that followed were a master class in manipulating emotions. Kate started crying as she described how my absence had traumatized the twins. My mom attempted to instill guilt. Following all that we have done for you ... Unexpectedly, Jack tried to mediate by offering a compromise in which I would only see the kids every other weekend, for the most part. My dad sat quietly and uneasy. Kate's statement, "You're being selfish. Family means sacrifice," was the pivotal moment. Something broke inside of me. Clearly but calmly, I responded, "Yes, family means sacrifice, but it's supposed to go both ways. When was the last time any of you sacrificed anything for me?" The ensuing hush was deafening. I revealed everything for the first time. The years of being Kate's second best friend, the unfair financial treatment, and the ongoing belief that my life and time were not as valuable as theirs. I then showed them my calendar for the previous year, with every weekend designated for babysitting and every holiday tailored to their requirements. Attempting to interrupt, my mother said, "But that's what aunts do." I responded by saying something I had never before dared to say. "No, that's what paid babysitters do. And Kate, if you need this much help, maybe it's time to consider hiring one." From there, the discussion took a different turn. My mother followed Kate as she rushed out. Remarkably, Jack remained and acknowledged that they had exploited my availability, remaining silent for a while ago. My father said, "We never meant to make you feel this way. It was something, but it wasn't an apology." I carried out my strategy. When they departed, I relocated to a different area of the city and got a new apartment. Although it's smaller than my previous residence, it's in a safe building with a doorman who has been informed of my predicament. Only my workplace and a select group of close pals now have my updated phone number. Rebuilding my life from scratch was the most difficult aspect, not the relocation or the planning. I had no true hobbies and few close acquaintances because I had spent years being there for my family. I began modestly. I enrolled in pottery lessons, joined a local reading club, and accepted dinner invitations from co-workers that I had previously consistently declined. It was a weird first weekend of real freedom. I did things that were previously unthinkable, including staying up late, going to a farmer's market, and spending hours perusing a bookshop. Kate didn't text me urgently. Mom doesn't make guilt-tripping calls. No requests for last-minute babysitting. My family's response to my relocation was harsh but expected. When my mother attempted to contact me via the company switchboard, they learned that my new job does not allow personal calls during business hours. On one occasion, Kate even visited my office, but security was alerted beforehand. She wrote a tearful letter accusing me of destroying our family. Jack was the source of the unexpected development. He apologized by email for his part in making the scenario possible. At first, Kate objected to him taking the twins to events on the weekends, but she has since come to terms with it. It's a minor yet important modification. My folks are having a hard time adjusting. Dad occasionally texts, usually in an embarrassing attempt to strike up a conversation. Mom fluctuates between angry outbursts and icy quiet. She left a voicemail last week stating, "When you're done with this rebellion, we'll welcome you back." This isn't a phase, and she doesn't get it. My new reality is this: without regular family interruptions, work has significantly improved. I'm more productive and focused. After noticing the shift, my supervisor assigned me to oversee a significant new project for the first time in years. I'm also dating casually, but I'm taking it slow. Internally, there has been the biggest shift. I no longer have the ongoing background anxiety that I had for years. I've started exercising frequently, improved my diet, and slept better, according to my therapist. Yes, I have finally begun therapy. I am beginning to recuperate from what she refers to as chronic family stress syndrome. The twins sent me a gift last weekend that included handcrafted notes expressing how much they miss me. Even though it was bittersweet, I remained resolute. I carefully wrote them back to let them know that although I love them, I need some time to look after myself. I had to write it. Even though Kate is unlikely to read it to them, there's a lightness about you now. You look years younger, observed an old acquaintance of mine when I ran into her yesterday. She is correct. I feel lighter in spite of the angry texts, the efforts at emotional manipulation, and the guilt that still surfaced. More liberated family love shouldn't feel like a prison sentence. I'm discovering respect for personal space, acknowledgement of one's own needs, and reciprocal assistance rather than only one-sided sacrifice. These are all components of true love. My new flat will be 1 month old next week. This is the first time I've ever dared to throw a tiny housewarming celebration. Only a few buddies from pottery class, book club, and work. No expectations, no drama, no family, just individuals who embrace me for who I am. I'll provide another update soon. I'm grateful to Reddit for giving me the confidence to make a life shift. Update 3. Completed. It has been a life-changing 3 months, and I want to describe how it has all come together. The confrontation I had been dreading and anticipating arrived last week. My father unexpectedly came up to my place of employment. His method was distinct from Kate's emotional manipulations or my mother's prior frenzy attempts. When he asked if we could have lunch together, he was composed, even resigned. We got together at a peaceful eatery close to my workplace. For the first time in my life, he truly saw me as his daughter, not as Kate's sister or the family's fallback option. He remarked, "You look healthy," in a startled tone, happier. The fact that he hadn't seen my discontent for years weighed heavily on the observation that lingered between us. The family had presented him with a proposal. They were prepared to make concessions if I agreed to take back my place in the family. I could have every other weekend off. He went on to say they'd even pay for my time with the twins, as though making money off of the commitment would make it more alluring. They still didn't understand. I realized, as I looked at him across the table, they did not view my independence as a basic right, but rather as a negotiating chip. "Dad," I replied, "I'm not negotiating my freedom, I'm living it." The conversation that ensued was the most candid one I have ever had with my father. I described how their incessant focus on Kate had impacted me emotionally as much as practically. I told him about memories he had forgotten or had never noticed, dreams disregarded, accomplishments overlooked, and birthdays neglected. His reaction was surprising. He sat for a long time in quiet, not making the normal defense of their decisions. At last, he stated, "We thought we were doing what was best for the family. We never saw how much we were hurting you." Although that wasn't quite an apology, it was the first time I had ever been acknowledged. When he inquired about my new life, that was the true turning point. He paid attention for the first time as I discussed my pottery lessons, my job advancement, and the new acquaintances I had made. Even though it was not flawless, I showed him pictures of a vase I had built. I was shocked by what he said next. "You seem to have built a good life for yourself without us." Both the recognition and the grief in his voice were genuine. We agreed at the end of lunch that nothing would ever be the same again. He gave me my first sincere embrace in years. As he bid farewell, he said, I hope someday we can be part of your life again, but on different terms. That exchange appeared to set off a final round of family strife. After learning of our lunch, my mother began a fresh round of emotional attacks. She has been informing family members that I need an intervention because I'm having a breakdown. Kate has been making passive-aggressive remarks about selfish sisters and broken families on social media because she feels deceived by our father's approval of my decisions. The difference is that none of it has the same impact on me as it formerly did. I've gained a viewpoint from my new life that I didn't have previously. Their actions, in my opinion, are an attempt to keep control over someone who has finally gained their freedom. My new flat seems like home now. My attempts at pottery and pictures of my chosen family friends who value my independence and respect boundaries adorn the walls. I've begun teaching my less experienced co-workers at work, ending the vicious loop of toxic support that has long ensnared me. My connection with time has changed the most. I get to spend the weekends any way I want. I've started learning Spanish, joined a local hiking group, and even started dating someone who respects and values my limits. I'm creating a life for the first time that is true to who I am, rather than what my family demands of me. The twins sent me a homemade card last Sunday, which was obviously written under supervision. It was filled with regrettable statements about how much they miss their aunt. This would have previously led me into a downward spiral of uncertainty and remorse. Rather, I responded with a tender yet strong letter stating that, although I may not be as involved in their everyday life, my love for them hasn't changed, and that sometimes grown-ups need to look after themselves. According to my therapist, I am exhibiting what she refers to as post-traumatic growth, not merely moving past the past, but creating something more robust and wholesome in its stead. She has assisted me in realizing that I am not responsible for resolving the dysfunction in my family. Yesterday was the most recent development. Jack, Kate's husband, contacted me to let me know that my stance has caused changes in their home, not to place blame on me. They've finally recruited part-time help to assist with the twins, and he's become a more involved parent. Jack believes it's better for everyone, but Kate is having trouble adjusting. I'm sitting in my home office, getting ready for a business trip next week as I write this last update, something I could never have done in my previous life. A framed quotation that speaks to my path is on the wall behind my desk. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is set yourself free. I want to express my gratitude to everyone who supported me and followed my tale. You gave me the confidence to make my own decisions. If you're wondering if people in comparable circumstances are selfish for desiring their own lives, know that you're not. Being free is not selfish. Treating oneself is not unkind. Setting limits is not a sign of treachery. I have no idea how my relationship with my family may develop in the future. Perhaps one day we'll discover a different kind of connection, one based on respect for one another rather than duty. In the interim, I'm concentrating on fostering the life I've built, including my friendships, interests, profession, and, above all, my sense of self. This is not merely a conclusion, it's just the beginning, and I'm looking forward to what comes next for the first time in my life. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. My fiancé let his mom dictate our wedding, including asking me not to wear white. Here's how I took back control of my life. Original post: have you ever seen I Love a Mama's Boy? Well, that's my life. Basically, I, to 7F, have been with my fiancé John, to 8M, since high school. We dated and broke up because his mother, Debbie, 53F, convinced him we were too young to be in love. We broke up and went to college. During my sophomore year, we started talking on socials again. He apologized and said he missed me. We got back together. Cue the waterworks. Debbie literally cried the first time she saw we were back together and told John that I have done witchcraft on him. I've always respected Debbie out of respect for my mother and upbringing. I was not raised to go back and forth with my elders, but she definitely abuses that. Since John and I decided to get back together, she has tried to hook him up with women from her church, her job, and even asks her friends for their daughters to give it a shot. John denies all of them, and Debbie says that I'm controlling. John has told her to stop, but not in a way I feel she gets the point. Anyway, 3 months ago, John proposed. Deb didn't come to the engagement party. Cool. She didn't come to the family dinner we had so both sides could meet. Cool. John's dad came and apologized for his ex's behavior. He left her when John graduated high school. I told him, don't worry about it. The problems really began when John decided to confront his mother about how she's behaving toward our whole engagement. This turned on the light bulb in his brain, as he's always tried to ignore it and tell me to ignore her. She gave him a sob story about how she got pregnant with him before marriage and never really got to have a wedding, and this is triggering her. She had a shotgun wedding at the courthouse. He asked her what she needed to feel comfortable, and she responded that if she wore white and I wore a soft pink or lavender, she would feel comfortable. My fiancé, for some reason, thought this was a fair compromise. He also said, not asked, that his mom could walk me down the aisle so she can get her moment in her dress. I told him, absolutely not, and we got into an argument about it. I told him that it's insane that he would argue with me to defend his mom's honor but wouldn't do the same the other way around. He accused me of being petty and selfish. It was bad. We both have agreed to cool off, but by how heated it got, I could tell we both almost agreed to call it off. Now we're in a weird space. And I love John, but now see how much he lets her impact our life. I just imagine her sitting at home with this evil grin, knowing she's ruining my relationship with John and he's just putty in her hands. I think I should just call off the wedding. Ayo. Or is it just a color? Top comments. Ducky's mom. This isn't about a dress color. It's about control and possibly a dash of humiliation. Do you really want to put down roots? Start a family with a man willing to bend backwards for his mommy to the point of telling his bride she can't wear white, but his mom gets the glory. I shudder to think what having kids with this man would look like. Kissinogenic. He can marry his mother in her white dress. Then what? An absolutely unhinged request, and any self-respecting man would be appalled to even bring this to his intended bride. Anon 466,544. You're not overreacting. But do you want a husband who will prioritize his mother's feelings over yours? Because this will not change after you get married. This is him showing you his priorities. Update 1. Hey everyone. Not sure if this is the update everyone wanted, but this is what happened. Since my last post, I laid out a couple of talking points that I couldn't articulate over the rage. I met up with John after work at home. I was at the gym letting off steam. We spoke on everything and made plans to speak to his mother. John came home remorseful. He told me he was anxious about it and brought it up to a co-worker and friend about how I don't want to compromise. Apparently, his friend, God bless his soul, went off on him about him being clingy. This angered me. So, when I say it, it's a problem, but another man tells you, and now you see the other side. I brought up my talking points, him being easily manipulated. This was also proved when I said he would listen to whatever another man said before his partner. Even though his friend agreed with me, it hurt that he didn't listen to me. His mom went out of her way to break us up with this silly request. He was way more open to this theory now, knowing how cringe he looks even telling this situation to someone else. I compared it to a father removing a bride's wedding garter. He got the point. He agreed to his mom's crazy request before even talking to me. He claimed he didn't. He told her he'll see how I feel about it and just brought it up to me. I asked why he did not see that his mother walking down the aisle on his wedding day was extremely creepy. He said it's just a dress in his eyes. He just didn't want his mom to miss the wedding. I told him there will be no wedding if he doesn't straighten up. He said he understood me, showing him how blatantly obvious it was that she hates me. She didn't even ask to wear white alongside me. which is still weird, but that I don't wear white at all, as if I'm some impure. Thanks, Reddit, because I wasn't even thinking of that one. He said he didn't see it that way. He just knew she hadn't been showing up because she said seeing me in white hurts her. So, I said, do you not hear your own mom saying she wants to be the bride herself? That she can't stand it being me. It finally looked like a ding went off in his head. Me asking him what role would she play in our wedding, childbirth, Mother's Day, and everything to come. Would I always come second place? He assured me I wouldn't, and he realizes how bad he was just trying to keep the peace. I asked, by always making her happy and making me miserable. I refused to live my life this way. He agreed and said he was sorry and that he wouldn't want me to be miserable. We have no children yet, but we created a plan on how to deal with any big milestone. She won't be there for anything unless I'm comfortable with it, and I won't be unless she does a 180. I asked what his mom said to change his mind, and you all guessed it. She cried. She cried about how her baby was getting taken away from her, how she never got her wedding, how his dad left her, and she was alone and had no one else, that she felt sick and just wanted to experience a real wedding before she dies. She is perfectly healthy unless there's something she hasn't told us. Elle just told him if that was enough to manipulate him. What's to say he won't turn on me again? He said his friend and dad talked sense into him about how he was going to lose me. I told him today was the last straw for me. He had to do 4 things to keep me engaged to him if he even cared to go LC with his mom and do not let her make any decisions on our wedding, which will be postponed another year to see if he actually sticks to his word. He has to go to counseling, individual and couples counseling. He has to speak to his mom with me present about her behavior toward me, because every time he goes by himself, he comes back with a reason why he left it alone. He must create strong boundaries and learn to uphold them. He agreed. Then came the bad part. I showed him the post. I felt so bad as he read everyone rip him to shreds in the comments. I could see how uncomfortable he was as he read how much of a mama's boy he was and other things about his mom. He was hurt that I agreed that I should leave in some comments. He read for a few minutes until he saw someone call him a spineless see you next Tuesday, and then gave my phone back. He said it was really harsh, but I had to show him how crazy the situation sounded, even if it was just to keep the peace on a surface level. Him reading the post was icing on the cake. He said he saw everyone telling me to leave, and his heart physically started hurting knowing that he deserved it. We called his dad, who I'm no longer calling Future F, because I will call this wedding off tomorrow if he doesn't have my back when we speak to his mom. Jay's dad, Dan, who I'll name since he's a big part of this update, then also read John the right act again? He was relieved John decided to get his act together. We agreed to go to Deb's house tomorrow with Dan and John's aunt. My dad is tagging along. John has said he will tell his mother that she can't under any circumstances make our wedding about her. He also said if she does cry or try to guilt trip him, he will tell her he's going NC. I feel terrible, as getting a man to stop talking to his mother isn't something I ever thought I even wanted. I doubt Debbie will come around, especially not tomorrow with all of us against her. I don't know if John will backtrack as soon as he gets there. I have explained if he doesn't grow a spine, I'm leaving. He either can marry me or marry his mom, but that's my ultimatum. He said he chooses me. We'll see, I guess. This all should make me happy, but I still feel icky. I'll update tomorrow after we all talk to Debbie. Update 2. Hey, everyone, I'm back with the last update. This is a bit long, so buckle up. Some people reach to disrespect me. I honestly don't care if you don't believe my story or find me annoying, but messaging me, calling me names, being disrespectful, or saying I shouldn't wear white to my own wedding is classless. I won't respond, and I genuinely hope you all get the help you need for whatever trauma makes you that much of an angry person. To all the people who have reached out with positive vibes and advice, thank you so much, you cutie patooties. Anyway, JN and I met up after work, and we headed to pick up Dan. John's aunt couldn't make it. My dad was meeting us there. I had really bad anxiety. I told Dan and Dad they should give us a few before knocking so she doesn't feel ambushed. They agreed. Here's the part everyone was waiting for. We get to Debbie's. My heart feels like I'm going up the world's tallest roller coaster slowly. John is quiet. We get there, and he gives her a firm but respectful hey. Mom, we sit down, and John tells her we came to talk to her. She asked, "What's wrong?" John got right into it. He bluntly said to her that her actions toward me for years have been petty. Her not showing up for any of our wedding events was unacceptable to him. He flat out asked her why she has a problem with me. I genuinely thought he was going to start with the dress situation. He went for the root of it all. Debbie acted like she had no idea what he was talking about. She has actively tried to get him to cheat, leave me for other women, but in that moment was shocked and doesn't know where this was coming from. She said she has no problems with me and loves me like a daughter. She looked at me like she expected me to talk, but like I said to you all, I wanted to see what John had to say. He asked her to be honest and named all the times he's recalled that she insulted me to my face and behind my back. He mentioned she has also told him he could do better every time I'm not around. This was news to me. But am I shocked? No. Deb was livid. She genuinely couldn't believe he outed her like that. She starts going off on him, calling him disrespectful and saying he was disrespecting his own mother for an outsider. She kept saying, "I know she made you do this. I know she's the one making you disrespect me like this." John was trying to reason with her and get her to calm down. I texted Dan and my dad to come in. Once they were inside, Deb became a different person. She was startled, as she wasn't expecting them, and then all of the things she was just saying went out the window. She turned to Dan and my dad and said, "John walked in and just started yelling at her because of me." My dad looked at me, and I shook my head no. Once Dan and Dad got in, everything was calmer for a little while. She went back to denying she didn't like me. They all told her that it was obvious that the dress request was shameful of her. She immediately replied, "It's shameful that I won't let her son spend time with her." John said, "That's not true." At this point, I'm burning inside. I wanted to correct all of her inaccuracies, but I stood quiet. JN asked her what the real issue with OP was. Deb starts saying how she knew I was going to be an issue since we were in HS. She said that once John got with me, his grades started dropping, which isn't true. That he stopped making time for family, also not true. That he once didn't show up to celebrate Mother's Day with her a few times because of my birthday. My birthday is in April. Mother's Day is in May. That once we got back together, he forgot about her completely because I made him abandon her. He goes to her house at least 3 times a week. She said the fact that we had the engagement party without checking how she felt about it was wrong and all the evidence she needed to see what kind of woman I am. My dad pointed out that she didn't pay for the engagement dinner to have any input on it. Then asked her, what was she thinking of asking to wear white at our wedding? Why is she so hungry for attention? Her face got red, and she went off. She told Dan, maybe if he would have properly married her and gave her a real wedding, she wouldn't feel left out. Dan straight up called and said that she didn't want to have a real wedding, even though he tried to convince her, the reason being that her mother told her pregnant brides are tacky. She started crying. I honestly felt bad for Debbie here. Mothers, be nice to your daughters or you'll create Debbies. My dad got everyone to calm down. JN finally spoke again and told his mom that he can't keep defending her when she won't even try to respect me, that for his sanity and our relationship, he's going LC. Deb kept crying and said that John can't leave her for dead. She's the only mother he'll ever have. Mothers are forever, wives are not. I'm not even his wife yet, and I'm already tearing apart the family. He kept going. He told her that we are going to get married. She can't respect me or stop crossing boundaries. She get cut off completely. That his visits are dropping down to 1 every 2 weeks, and that she needs to call less. She started going off. She knew it. I'm doing something for him. What did I do to her son? I'm a manipulator and a problem. She told my dad he raised a demon. My dad shot back at her to watch her mouth. John kept shouting, "Mom, stop. Mom, stop," but she kept screaming, and then she started hyperventilating. Whoever called it, you might be able to see the future. She was gripping John's arm, saying she can't breathe. This was when I said to myself, oh no, Hyun's about to flip-flop. He looked at me, and I knew he knew what I was thinking. John got her a cup of water, then asked his dad if he could make sure his mom was okay and asked my dad to take Dan home. Dan and Dad agreed, and his mom started crying louder. She literally screamed, "I can't breathe." As we walked out so he could hear her, I felt terrible, and I finally spoke. I told JN, "I'm sorry, and I understand if he felt bad." He said he knew she was faking it, but his instincts wanted to run over and make sure she was okay. I asked, "Are you?" He said, "No," but he looked really sad about it. My dad walked out behind us. My dad has never seen this side of Deb. Neither have I. She's always been catty or shady toward me. But this was insane. My dad straight up told John that his mom needed help with her mental health. John said he's going to talk to his aunt about getting her help. We went home, and John cried. He said he cried because he watched his mom villainize him and tell others that he just walked in and verbally abused her. He said it reminded him of the times he would fight with his dad because his mom would say Dan would just come from work and yell at her for no reason. I guess it was déjà vu for him. He was silent after she said that, so I do believe it struck a nerve with him. He decided to go and see for now. I did ask him if he was okay with me posting this part, and he said yes. Before we went to Deb's house, I called a couple of counselors in our area to check availability, and our first couples therapy session is next month. It's a little while away. He called his provider today to check for a therapist within his insurance and got an appointment for himself for the 23rd. The ball is rolling, and John seems like he's on the same page as me. I know this is killing him, though. Dan called us and let us know he got Deb to calm down. He said he spoke to her as best as he could about her harming her own relationship with John, but she didn't want to hear it. Thank you, Reddit. I really didn't expect this to blow up like this. The advice and wishes I got from this was so overwhelming in a great way. While I should be happy, something about it all just makes me feel down. I hope that Debbie gets better and we can one day have her in our lives. Something about that comment about her mother made me hurt for little Debbie. Hopefully, one day I'll get to hear her stories. Now I'm going back to my regular life, and hopefully, I won't ever have a dramatic update for you guys ever again. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.